Welcome, and thank you so very much for joining me on another episode of Talking Cloud. Now, I named it Talking Cloud because I really believe anything in the world of computing is going to be touching the cloud, and I think I'm right. But we really talk about anything that has to do with technology, and I've told you so many times I'm the Gilligan in this equation. But I get amazing just brilliant people, lots of really just doing a lot of amazing things in this industry. And so I just always love to meet new people, new leaders, new executives. And I got one today. And man, I'm super excited for a few reasons. I just met Jim for the very first time, Jim LaRoe. He's the CEO of Symphion. He's going to tell me all about it, and you too, because I don't know anything about it, but we're going to push it from the dock that way. Jim, welcome to the program. It's great having you.
Hey, thank you, Grant. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, I'll cut to the quick. I thought I heard, similar names, but I don't know that one, and I don't know the company. So why don't you talk to me like I am the Gilligan I am, and tell me about you.
I spent a lot of my youth watching that show, man.
Oh, I love it. I watched an episode just the other day.
Hey, man, I'm not the professor, but I can accommodate for. So our company's called Symphion Incorporated. We're based out of Dallas. We've been in business since '99. We're the world leader in what we call print fleet cybersecurity. It's protecting the printer endpoints from cyber crimes. They're very prevalent. Some of our fleets range 30,000 printers down to a few hundred. So we're filling an operational need for customers to do that.
I want to understand because I remember now reading a blurb about this in your bio. Excuse me. And I remember some research a bunch of years ago, actually, where I think it was Checkpoint research, actually, that showed how there was a breach that came through a networked printer. Now, I don't know if I'm muddying the waters or different or what, but so explain what you do. Are you plugging that potential hole in enterprises?
Yes. Okay, let me give you some background, Grant.
Okay.
Just remember these three numbers, okay? 20, 99, and 1.
Okay.
You know what the network endpoints are, right? They can be your PCs, your servers, some of your other medical device, things like that. 20% of those endpoints are printers across almost every single industry and every size business. 99% of them are unprotected. They've got a 360-degree attack vectors that they present, and all it takes is one to bring down the whole business. And we've got customers ranging in maturity from, what do you mean we still have printers and they've got 10,000 printers on their network, to we got hacked through a printer and it shut us down. So it's a big, wide swath of companies with this endpoint issue, and we're absolutely filling that gap.
That's, it's amazing. So when I think of other solutions in the market, right? Because I think of it in the world of, it's in a sense, it's IoT. Right?
Most configurable IoT device out there.
Yeah. And so what's unique, it sounds like, about what you guys are doing is you don't really care about any other device. You're laser focused on printers. Is that right?
No, we started with the top of Mount Everest, the most configurable, the 40. You said, hey, Jim, I started an Apple store, right? Back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So you're from that time period, the printers from that time period. And it's developed for 40 years, really. And it's the most configurable IoT device out there, but it's complex. It's a complex, multiple servers built in, hard drive, web server, server, fax, FTP. It's a complex device. the hallmark of IoT and connected devices is they have disparate operating systems. It's not like Windows management instrumentation where you've got PCs that all can be managed by one piece of software or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not only we're starting with the printers because they have the numerosity and we we have a per device fee, but we're also hardening IP cameras. They're less configurable, but they're really risky. They're highly hacked.
Yep.
Some other things that we've been asked to do, like uniform the power supplies, building management system devices, things like that. So we built some technology that crosses all the makes, models, types, and kinds of IoT devices out there. But we're focused in on printers because it's the most risky, really, of all.
So how is your solution different than, say, some other endpoint solution, some other IoT solution that says they do a discover on the network and these are all these devices they found and they come up with I mean, where do you come in differently than that?
Good question. So we not just tell you you've got a problem, we fix it and keep it fixed. So it's a technology enabled service. We call it Print Fleet Cybersecurity as a Service. So we built some technology. We got into let me back you up a little bit. Okay. So we built a CMDB, configuration management database, put it in a managed service, and sold it to, licensed it to IT outsourcers and operated it for them. So their discipline of tracking all the devices across their whole footprint, and reporting on it was done by us. And then we got in with one of the big printer manufacturers and we saw, man, there's a parallel universe with the printers because they've grown up in supply chain and procurement like business equipment, not IT devices. But they are IT devices because all the manufacturers been competing with each other with adding all these features hanging off the camera and the sorter and all that kind of stuff. But nobody's treating them like they're the risky endpoint that they are. So, and we saw that like different manufacturers have software that'll control their devices, but it's a programming interface type device. So we built a solution that controls across all the makes, models, put it in a managed service. So we do things, basic things like IT asset lifecycle management. With a print fleet, that's a big deal because they move around and change them all the time. Security configuration management, patching, certificate management, monitoring, remediation.
All laser focused on printers and then cameras, it sounds like, as you expand. But I mean, it's not like you're not trying to focus on anything else.
Right. Because we put it in a managed service and made it where it's no operational lift for the customer because they're not going to do it. They haven't.
Is it a SaaS? So I'm ABC company out in Open Store, Wyoming, and I have 5 buildings, and I'm got everybody connected. I got 1,800 employees. Do I just subscribe to Symphion and plug in, do some API exchange, some policy exchange? How do you provide that service?
Good question. That's an architecture question. So we're not a SaaS in that your data, we install on the customer site, whether that's in the cloud or on the VMs that they allocate in the data center. And our folks remote into the however their access protocol is and operate the software for the term of the contract. There's nothing to install on no agents to install on the printers, but all the customers' data, which is limited, is not the E5 or most of our customers are hospital systems. So big spread out all over the place with a bunch, really.
So you're going in, you're installing on-prem or installing in their private cloud or even maybe in their AWS instance, but of course all securely, right? And then after connecting to their environment or because it's seeing all the network traffic, right? I take it you're not deploying agents, but it's seeing it all at the network level?
It's at the network level, and it's accessing the devices without agent. Yes, so it's something it's reading that it's identified. It's got a special signature for the printing devices and other unique devices that are in scope.
So you're managing. So
Yeah.
I say, okay, Jim, great program. I want all my printers fixed. I plug in with you. I sign the contract with you. But now I need to allow you to connect it to my network. I mean, do you get pushback on, policy and access, or explain to me that?
Not really, but everybody has their own architecture review, right? Their own IS review, their own onboarding process for vendors. Hey, what are you going to do on my network?
Yeah.
What's your software going to do? What's it going to access? All that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But
Well, supply chain is becoming even more and more scrutinized, right? Because it's become such a huge exploit and potential attack surface that we've overlooked, right?
back all the way back to like Target. One fellow asked me about Target the other day about that HVAC contractor.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that as far as risk in the printer endpoint too, because everybody in the supply chain has printers, right?
Yeah.
So we're
Sure.
seeing, yeah,
Get in, move lateral. Yeah.
exactly. Well, but like my accountants have,
Or upstream.
yeah, my accountants have printers, my lawyers have printers.
Yeah.
Are they hardened? I mean, so it gets it all. But we install the whole application, everything inside the customer's data center on the allocated servers and operate it from remote. All their data stays on premises, so it's in their data security model. We access using their protocols for access. It's just like an extension of their team. Our people, we call them concierges. Then they're steeped in operating our software in security configuration management for printers and working in sensitive environments and customer service. They take care of it soup to nuts. So it's like we call them concierges because it's like, man, you could go check into the Four Seasons over in Japan or something, and you might not speak Japanese, Grant. You're a pretty eclectic dude, but I don't know. Maybe you don't speak. You could probably go work your way through it on the on the internet with the translator and all that.
Arigato.
And I want to go to the concert, or you could call the concierge. They do it for you, right?
Yeah, I'd definitely be calling the concierge beyond arigato and doimasimasu. That's about it. So.
But what we also saw, man, was it's not just throwing software at a solution, because there's so many processes that are putting them at risk, centralized management, like newly discovered devices on the network. They're flying blind on it. And the printer, the risk has walk-up access risk, because it's got USB ports on it. It's sitting out in the middle, and lots of times in a hospital, there's
where anybody can get to it because everybody's connected to it. It says, even the location, floor 2, when you're picking it a lot of times, right? That's how they'll name them. So you're exactly right.
Somebody could walk up with a USB stick and put it in there, And it's like the Sony hack, with the computers in the lobby, it's that risky because there's no system administrators, in the data center, like for the servers that are involved. There's no user like a PC, even a shared PC user, where there's, access controls. And these printers, man, the ethical hackers talk about, we're not hackers, we're protectors. Okay. Yeah. So the ethical hackers are like, man, we love the printers because they, like you said, they allow us to move laterally, and they store credentials oftentimes at the administrator level.
Sure.
That they touch, like
because they're in a bucket called printers, and you got to give it and we're still back. They're far from implemented in a zero trust model.
100%.
And you could argue that that's what you're doing. You're bringing zero trust to printers. And I think at least that's how I would kind of spin it.
I like it.
That's okay. Just give me a little credit when you're out there cashing in those big deals, okay?
Well, some of the, one of the things I wanted to talk about is some of the fallacies for protection models for printer. You've got customers that don't do anything. they're like, hey man, we'll just wait till something bad happens,
Yeah.
right? And then we'll react to it, and root cause is not getting reported, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Here's what I'll tell you about that, brother. And this is absolute fact. We're already seeing it. Okay. Because our business is security, you know that. And we're also heavy, big into AI. And that's where we're going to get the shit kicked out of us.
100%.
And every one of those organizations that that are oblivious to it, right? I kind of liken them to people that are in America and don't have a passport, right? I mean, they're just not in touch with what's really going on. Those people are in for a rude awakening, because where before it was the level of effort on the part of the nefarious was pretty great to really go after all these companies, but now every one of them have assistants that work 24/7 and go baby go. And so they can start sicking them on everybody that's asleep at the wheel. I mean, I think we're in for a real rude awakening over the course of the next 12 to 24 months, because no different, and this is a horrible analogy or reference, but it's really, I think, very accurate. If you look at one industry in particular, they have been miles ahead of all of us in the world of video. We know what industry that is. Well, the bad guys are the same way, insofar as if the AI we've implemented in our organization isn't perfect, we're going to keep it in the lab. Come on, Jim, let's get this right. We got to work out the wrinkles. The nefarious could give a shit, because now it's magnitudes more effective than the previous method, even though it's not perfect, and it's only getting better. So they're running with it. So the point is the delta, right? The time that their starting gun has went, we're still trying to make sure we're safe, and we're going to get the shit kicked out of us. And we're already starting to see it happen. And I would think this would be a huge area of exploit that they could go for.
Let me throw some gasoline on you.
Yeah.
Okay. The industry habit for 40 years, the manufacturers have done a great job. Okay. I'm not going to name them. We're partners with some, but not all.
Sure.
But man, they resell our solution to the customers. Okay. Because they've done great. They built in features to protect the devices. Okay. I mean, but what happens is when they're shipped at what we call factory default, right?
Right.
Nothing's
admin password.
It's even worse than that, man. It's more accessible. And the management industry, with tens of billions of dollars in annual revenue, fighting over cost reduction. I mean, they're fighting over pennies, but they're big money pennies. They're putting them out there at factory default. Okay. And you can go look it up. You can say, hey, I can go to Shodan. Here's what I
was just going to say, I bet Shodan would scare the shit out of you.
One of them in 2015, and one guy asked me the other day, he's like, what about the big hack event, Jim? And they're going to wake everybody up to the printers. And I'm like, it didn't. It didn't, because in 2015, two outfits did the Shodan hack. One of them printed out 150,000 Nazi, anti-Semitic propaganda mainly through the education, higher ed throughout the country. And then another one printed out manuals. They said they went in and picked 800. They saw the first 800,000 and picked 28,000 and printed out a manual about how to protect your printer. So, if they can print on the device, they're on your network. Right, just like they've taken you over at that point. So
you bet.
They just go look it up, and it's find the model, look it up, and the password's sitting there on the internet. So the AI, man, so some of these customers are like they're hard.
Sitting ducks.
Well, but it goes organizationally more than that, Grant. It's no one owns printer security. Okay, in the organization. So it's not as sexy It's the forgotten endpoint, right? It's
Mm.
not the AI like what you're talking about, which is all top, all these new apps and every
Right.
world change and all this. It's still entrenched 20% of the endpoints, and
Yeah,
our
that's
most
amazing,
sensitive
man.
data, our most sensitive data, our customers' data is going through these devices. Okay, it's getting
That's remarkable.
giving them, it's transmitting it, it's storing it, it's processing it, all
Well,
that.
and that's the other thing. A lot of these printers nowadays, I mean, with their buffers and with their caching, and I mean, the data is in the device. It's not as if it's just passing through and going to the output, right? I mean, it ends up actually being in that device, which obviously is another risk.
Well, the real risk to me, okay, if you're looking at levels of risk, is using that as a lateral movement platform.
Access, yeah.
Right. It's absolutely. I'm on criminals. One of the red hat guys. It's like we log in instead of breaking in.
Oh
So
yeah, that's the new meme in the world of security is, hackers don't break in, they log in. I mean,
yeah,
that's and that I think speaks really to a bigger issue that you hit on that I think sometimes we don't really extrapolate the consequence and the impact, and that is this hamster wheel we're all on called digital transformation, right? Because I call it a hamster wheel because I really believe once you get on it, right? Once you digitize, there's no end in sight, right? You're just going to modernize and improve how you've digitized, but you're certainly not going to go back to the pen,
right.
right? And so, and my point is that this phenomenon is leaking now because of size, right? Into everything, everything. And I mean, I just saw it the other day. New browser comes out from Atlas, right? The new ChatGPT browser. Numerous vulnerabilities discovered, like out of the chute. We just posted our research discovering serious potential breach in Teams,
Yeah.
where an exec could come in and masquerade as somebody. So my point is, as we build more and more and more, it only exponentially increases the likelihood of an exploit because more and more built by man, and there's something wrong with that one, and it's connected to that, and there's something wrong with that one. So we just got to correlate how we can get from that, right? And that's what's going on. It's not going to change, but I do think um, it's only going to get compounded as we get more and more digitized.
We have to secure in layers. I mean, security is a layered. It has to be a layered approach. Look at the most recent network element company that got hacked. Okay,
Yeah.
it was like last week or something. I don't want to name names, but you know,
Everybody gets hacked.
if somebody's taking like for instance with the printers, if somebody's taking a microsegment only approach to it, they're burned. I mean, and we've got customers that come on the maturity scale. We've got customers that, what do you mean I still have print? What do you mean we still have printers? That's in supply chain. That's,
Right.
equipment like syringes and rubber gloves, or something. Or, the other guys are like, man, I can't get anybody to pay attention to the printers,
Yeah.
and everybody else in between, man.
So you mentioned hospitals, but you also mentioned assets, and it sounds, the asset discovery, that's kind of the space you're in, right? So you must run up against other, you know, companies that are purely focused on, asset management, or because that's one of the things in hospitals, right? Where's that wheelchair, right? Or, I mean, that's a big issue. that's not a printer, obviously. That's why you're getting all these RFID tags and all this different types of, tracking implementation. But how do what's your response when, the CFO says, yeah, Jim, great solution, but I got this asset management company that takes care of that for me?
Well, just like when we started at the top of the hour, we were talking about discovery, right?
Right.
That's a piece of it. Okay. You can discover, it's like, well, man, we can, like printers don't have many, CVEs, right? The reported vulnerabilities.
Right.
They're consistent about reporting vulnerabilities, and there's some really blatant stuff. And, some customers have turned their vulnerability scanning on the printers, and, that's knowledge. Okay.
Yeah.
Knowledge is not enough. Detection is one thing. Mean time to detection, mean time to remediation is where the action is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
right now in most print fleets, they don't discover it. I mean, they've got an approach called set and forget. They put
Yeah.
it in that
Yeah.
work. They may have hardened it up front, but
Yeah.
it got swapped out. Maybe the motherboard got changed. Something changed it. It undid it. Or they open a different segment. Whatever the change, we know that we're in constant state of change as endpoints on anybody's network.
Yeah.
It changes. So it's discovery is one thing. So what we did in that
Discovery is sort of like a security guard with no gun.
well,
Hey, somebody's robbing you.
exactly. I got a bunch of analogies in that area, man, on this situation, but
I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? You're telling me it's bad's happening, but you're not able to do anything about it if you're just in the discovery phase.
Think about it. You got this business, and you got these bars of platinum stacked in the middle of it, right? And you got all these windows and doors around, and you're in a high crime area. The criminals are passing by all the time. Okay, I found the door. Okay, what are you going to do about it? I found the window. I'm not checking whether it's locked or not. I'm not checking whether, I'm checking where it is. And those things change all the time, but that platinum still is there. And the bad guys know the platinum's there. They can look in and see it.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I going to do? So printer inventory, we call it enterprise evergreen inventory. Okay, it's a different deal because they're on wheels, man. And they've change them around all the time. So we had to track the devices through a whole bunch of different metrics of the device. The industry has pretty much defined itself with the IP tracking. And if you've got a DHCP environment or DHCP reservation, even you lose track of the devices. So we built a mousetrap when we got in this parallel printer universe, looking at what was going on. And we built a bulletproof IT asset lifecycle management tracking. But that doesn't really address the security configuration, monitoring the changes, remediating changes.
It's a snapshot point in time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell you, hey, the people are coming in and out of that door. Is it staying locked? Or do we have other controls that we need to address on that door, like maybe some kind of camera or something? That analogy to the print fleet it just highlights the complexity that's involved in securing these devices that most folks don't understand. And but we built that into the automation, and then couple that with the people. We can take, as soon as something changes, we'll discover it within half a day if a configuration changes. So like one of the hackers said, look, first thing I'm going to go is I'm going to go in, I'm going to get that print, I'm going to get access to that printer, and I'm going to find the admin password. Okay. I mean, maybe brute force, maybe just log it in off the internet or something like that. Then I'm going to change it to my password and point it off platform to me. And I'm going to use that to work my magic, my criminal activities inside this network, and it's like, we'll discover that within a few hours, and we'll remediate it back within change control for the devices. So it's like, it's if a device falls off inventory, we'll know about it within the hour. I mean, if a newly added device, this is a big deal for most customers, gets added to their network, they don't have visibility to that. They don't know whether it's configured or not. We'll know about it within the hour if we're on those subnets. So it's
With the, I mean, in the world of Wi-Fi, because that's all everybody is now, right? Nobody's plugging in; they just are connected. So it's so I have to believe, and I'd love to hear them, or at least maybe a couple, because you said you've been doing this since when?
since we launched the solution in 2018 in August.
Okay, so
The software in 2017, QC, betas, all that. We launched it in 2018.
7 years. So I got to believe in those 7 years, you've come across some interesting, if not unbelievable, instances where you went in and discovered things or found things, or can you share any
Well,
interesting trials or tribulations that you've had without, of course, mentioning any customers' names or anything?
no, we've seen them like try to hack Google through a printer and help in the EDU setting. Because they had an Android operating system, they tried to use that as a launch denial of service against Google because the printers, if they're not configured right, they're set the phone home to the manufacturer off network, unsanctioned communication off the network to download payloads and stuff like that. I mean, when are you ever going to allow that if you have a tight ship? If you're in
Never.
never, no.
Yeah.
So, we've seen most of them. Most of the stories, Grant, are around like they're not doing anything. It's just a blind spot for them.
Yeah.
And, they've got thousands of them.
So who's your main point? I mean, it sounds like it's a struggle. Maybe have you identified? If I'm thinking like a sales guy, who do you go? Where's the pain? Who's the individual that says, "Man, we got to have this"? And is that the same person that's got the money to buy it? And how's that go?
Very insightful question you have. Okay, so it depends on their maturity level, right? It depends on
when you say maturity, you mean just kind of security sophistication maturity level
related to the printers.
Yep. Okay.
So some customers, like I said, at one end of the spectrum, I'm talking to the CIO of a 30 hospital system. What do you mean? Hey, Jim, good to see you. What are y'all doing about printer security? And he goes, man, I don't have any idea. Do we still have printers? And it's like he's got 10,000 of them on his network, and that's CIO. And the other end is they're keenly aware because they've been hacked and compromised and shut down and know the cost of that being hacked for a printer. So
same organization,
all across. Okay, so what's the role? All right, our typical customer is in IT. Okay, the endpoint people, the infrastructure people, the CIO, depending upon how large the customer is, and they have pressure from the information security or the governance regulatory compliance group to do something about the printers. And typically what will happen is they'll set a policy or some sort of policy. One of the things that we've seen, like some of our biggest customers, like I'd mentioned before, they have the vulnerability scanning software that they use on their PCs and servers and things like a Rapid7, a Qualys, a Tenable, track, because those guys report the CVEs and they can mix them in, and they can authenticate on the device. Okay, they're using them as a pen test on the printers, saying, hey, look, this is a lower cost way for me to check out the printer's risk, because they've got all these ports and protocols open. They don't have a cert on them. That sometimes, but it doesn't get the big vulnerabilities inside the printer because it doesn't authenticate. But they flop that over the wall to the IT guys, and the IT guys find it in their budget and fix it. So our audience, our site, our main customer influencers are the information security professionals, because they know they just have trouble prioritizing it because they typically don't have a budget to do this sort of thing. So they've got to influence to get the budget to do it. In supply chain, those folks where the printers have resided, they're not adding a cost unless they have to anything, because everything is print delivery.
Right.
Optimizing that from a cost basis. I'm a hammer, everything's a nail, I got to drive it out. So it's like but we've got customers that our partners that are in RFPs where they've got 16 different categories of security configuration management, patching, all the basic cyber hygiene components that we do, that they pitched us, as the solution for that. And maybe multiple sides of the same deal,
Yeah. Well, I could definitely see it's, I mean, in the world of cybersecurity, the CISO has become the target. Everybody has
hard to hard to
a value proposition for the chief information security officer.
Yes.
And there's not a single chief information security officer I know that answers his or her phone unless it's from someone they know in their phone book and they want to talk to that person. So, it's interesting because oftentimes, yes, the CISO has the budget at that bucket level, but they're not the ones that really say, hey, we got to fix this. Although I could see how this being overlooked could be kind of a CISO differentiator for them, right? A way to kind of puff their chest a little and say, hey, I'm thinking of everything, man. Check this out. I got this great company. I mean, and I love the outsource model because, quite frankly, nobody. If I can turn it into an OpEx transaction,
yeah,
with a minimal CapEx investment, sounds like I got to have a little bit because I got to have it installed on a server or something.
We flattened it out. We flattened it out. Okay,
yeah,
so
I think that's awesome.
It characterizes both, though, Grant. In some cap policies, because payment terms up front, licensing of the software is involved, but we can flatten it out per device. It's inclusive. Yeah. It's an inclusive price for all the cyber hygiene. We want them to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
We want them to adopt it, and we include a program management office of lessons learned, processes proven in the mix, because when you're setting up what controls should we have, and that's kind of fleet defend. We call it fleet because that's all the devices that make up the printer endpoint. Because really the problem's not, hey man, I just got a brand, I've just got HP printers, I've got it, or Ricoh or Kyocera or Canon or Xerox or whatever. I've just got that brand. It's not brand specific. It's, man, I got this whole endpoint, so right. We had it from a vendor agnostic, the whole endpoint. You need to basically have proven cyber hygiene across all the devices. If you can't prove it, it's not any good in security. You have to be able to prove it. It's not unless you can prove it. So, we can sit around and talk about it. So the value proposition to them is it's a win. You're going to get a win with us in this endpoint. Unless you just want to keep flapping in the wind on the deal, it's a
risk, right? You're spinning a roulette wheel if you let it go. So tell me, how'd you get into this? You're still a young man, but I mean, you had to be. I mean, how'd you find your way down this mountain?
Young man, I like you.
Hey, compared to me, I don't have too many guests that I can't say that to. So, and I'm only reminded that when I see myself in a mirror, so I take them all down.
I like it. So how do we get into the printer, folks?
Yeah, well, I mean, just tell me a little bit more about maybe before Symphion and about Jim LaRoe and how you got where you are and got to this business.
Okay, I'm an engineer from Rice University, and I am a trial lawyer in the state of Texas as well. So
wow.
I have done a lot of demolition as far as, seeing what breaks and how statutes are violated and all sorts of stuff like that. And we got in.
What kind of engineer, if I can ask? Which
structural engineer.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So Come from a family of engineers, actually.
So not just beauty, but brains too.
Oh, I don't know, man.
That's pretty awesome.
Call me
So,
young and smart too, Grant. I'm gonna have to come back and visit you.
oh, good,
I like.
good. So what I want to hear. So engineer, but you said law. So I mean, how'd your, I look at life and I really believe it's like literally taking a super ball and throwing it from the summit. It'll just bounce, but it never goes where you kind of plan. It just kind of
Sure.
finds its way.
I'll throw you another one in there. Construction. Okay, so all those kind of come together with what we're doing here. We started off doing when I started Symphion, we're the largest subcontractor for Accenture for EAI projects, enterprise application integration. When the web was opening up, we would
Yeah,
teach.
yeah. Accenture in the Dallas area.
Yeah, and we went all over the world for them, South America, everything, and we got in several leading technologies. It was web enabling the ERP systems back then, basically your SAP,
Yeah,
PeopleSoft, JD
yeah,
Edwards, all that, and got in that. And then we had a customer. We had a customer, Pure One Imports, over in Fort Worth. They
yeah,
came to us and they said, Jim, this is great what you're doing. I was talking to the CIO and he goes, that's great what you're doing, but we got a problem because somebody took down a database server 2 weeks before Christmas, not knowing its interdependency with the large grain applications, and we couldn't process credit worldwide for like 4 hours or something.
yeah.
So he was describing, we need something to put everybody on the same page. So that put us in the software market. We built the CMDB, and before ServiceNow was even in business, and we sold it to them. We got all the intellectual property rights, licensed it to them, took it out to our big system integrator customers, and we were off and running.
That's
And
awesome.
decided to go agentless. We couldn't find anybody that would partner with us to do the scanning, to fill the database. And we got the smartest engineers in the world. Some of them been with us the whole time, and we developed that technology, and we're really way ahead of everybody in that space. And then ServiceNow came along, and they became they replaced. I don't know if you recall this. They replaced the help desk, the Remedy help desk application with a SaaS solution, and the CMDB went along with that. So we had our customer base, and then we came into the printer. Got exposed in the printer because they wanted us to have the manufacturer called us up because they had bought a services company for IT, and they said, hey, can you do this for us for this? And then we got our eyes open to the whole print industry, and
what I call a V8er.
Yeah, and you saw the security, the lack of security, the features at first blush, and this is for your customers too. At first blush, you see the features that are touted on the devices, and they're incredible.
Sure.
The manufacturers, like one of them had like little movies they were doing with Christian Slater and everything. And it's really sophisticated stuff, but in reality, in practical application, it's like, you're not relying on Dell to secure your Dell desktop. It's you've got systems for that and process and people and tools to use to secure that. And they've got them. They just have to be utilized and monitored, and maintained. So
in the cloud, right? There's the shared responsibility model, and it's absolutely one of the most confusing things I think out there so often. And it's really very simple: in and of, right? What goes in it, that's your responsibility. Of the environment, that's AWS, Azure, what have you. But a lot of people don't think about that in the same context or principles about a printer, right? When I have a printer that, yes, it's going to not have a bunch of vulnerabilities right out of the box, but it's my responsibility to harden it, to close down ports that they tout they make available and
Yeah,
maybe default open instead of closed,
they're
right?
all default open. They're business enablement
Yeah.
technology
So
built into the
it's shame on you for your ignorance, really, right?
it's but that's where the IoT space is headed too. I mean, like a camera, an IP camera. You've got a bunch of Chinese cameras on the market. You got issues around that. You've got configurability from an admin password.
Yeah.
Certificates, the SNMP. Some other hardening firmware updates, that sort of thing that are all out there
Yeah.
that are available, but they're not being done. And it's like,
Yeah.
people really want to look on the cameras and hack them too, but that's where it's all headed. But it has to be in layers, I mean, like we support with the PMO, we'll support them to help them micro segment the devices, to
Right.
to get optimize the models and makes of the devices so they have less moving part. Those kind of efficiency things,
Yeah.
part and parcel to good IT asset lifecycle management.
Yeah.
Thing. My biggest challenge, Grant, is getting people to pay attention to printers. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really the stigma is that it's a piece of business equipment that's been the analog device, not on the network over in the corner that people hate.
Right.
And it's
Right.
uh,
Yeah, I can see how I mean, and the other thing about printers is, they're kind of um, they're dinosaurs that have been modernized, and we forget about the modernization. Right? We see the dinosaur shit. They've been here for 20 years, 30 years. We had that same HP back in, right? But oh no, it's not the same one. We got the newer model. Well, it looks the same. You think it's the same, but in fact, that new model has a bunch of communications capabilities
remote
that's where it's
communication.
different.
Oh, remote telnet, IPP, these things that are,
Yeah, here, take it over and troubleshoot it for me.
yeah,
Every device that touts the ability to have someone else provide troubleshooting is a potential attack vector or a potential threat because it goes both ways. It's like a telephone, it's full duplex, right?
yes, 100%. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we're getting the word out now because the industry is oriented to its own messaging, right? The print industry is, the manufacturers are oriented to their message, and the managed print service industry is oriented to its message, and we're coming in
yeah,
with a little bit different message, which is let's fix the problem, you know,
yeah.
keeping.
That's interesting. And I could see, you know, kind of calls almost for like some guerrilla marketing, some compelling, like, you know what I mean? That's where I just think something that just shows how vulnerable if you've, it's kind of like if you've not checked it, you're at risk, right? I
Well,
mean, it's kind of a one or the other.
if you start at, we started off with a compliance approach, especially in healthcare in 2018,
Yeah,
violating HIPAA. I mean, we had the former head of the OCR on webinars with us and white papers
yeah.
like that, but no one really was paying attention to that. It's like,
Yeah, I could see where, I'm not so worried about my printer being compliant. Even though from a security perspective, I think security is a better angle than compliance personally.
for sure.
Uh, but I think, it's sort of like, one of the things that I talk about, we've made some acquisitions, Checkpoint has, and one of them that's just been brilliant is our email security is solution called Avanon that's now part of what we call our Harmony suite, our workspace solution. But I mean, it kicks the shit out of everybody. I mean, it's just so much better. We're just so much ahead. Very similar to what I hear you telling me. And what I'll often tell people is, in the world of security, we have to start with the big rocks. And if you've ever seen that demo on YouTube, look it up. and it has this guy where he's got
Yeah.
boulders and rocks and pea gravel and sand and water, and he demonstrates how the only way to get it all, which he did, into this container is starting with the big rocks, right? And then working, down to smaller, smaller, and smaller. And so, I think of this as a very potentially overlooked big rock, right? And that's what I tell people is, in the world of cybersecurity, email security is a huge big rock because so much starts with email.
Yeah.
But I could see,
It's, I know.
I could see in the world of IoT, in the world of device security, if it's 20% of the endpoints, brother, that's a pretty big rock.
Big numerosity is there, man. And let me tell you, 99% of them are not protected.
Yeah,
99, Grant,
that's
99.
that's crazy.
Okay, they can
Yeah.
say, well, we harden it when we put it on. I mean, I'm talking to managed print service group. They got 300,000 under management. We don't touch them after we put them on the network. It's
Mm.
no way to enforce it. There's no, has been no way
Yeah.
force it. So, we're giving customers that option right now. And we're having to tell them lock the front door. It's at that basic level of, awareness that we have. And it's like, a lot of what you brought up earlier about digitization, people, I think in the back of their minds, a lot of them think, man, we shouldn't spend any money on this. We'll just wait it out. It's gonna get digitized. There'll be some AI, deal for it or something like that. And it's like, that hasn't happened. It's
Yeah.
not, it's, you
Well,
rely
we're listen. I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean, we're still a visual, tactile species, despite the fact that we all have supercomputers and we do consume a fair amount here. Sometimes, and I think there's actually been some research that shows that, from retention, write it down, your retention's higher, right, than when you're on a keyboard or when you're on a handheld device. So I believe, and for me, I know I need it sometimes I need it printed. I need to be able to look at it right. And so I don't think that's going to go away, but I do think it's overlooked and deprioritized because they don't realize it's just as vulnerable as that new cool thing you plugged in the MRI room.
Yeah, they don't understand that. There's a ton of software companies out there, not a ton, but a number that will inventory like medical devices on the network.
Yep.
From the
asset inventory. Yeah.
They're in the network traffic stream, identifying it. Came out of Cisco and some of the others, and that's great. But what are you going to do about it? You can microsegment. You're not going to harden them all. From a network stance on
it would seem like that'd be a potential good angle for partners for you. Go find somebody that's doing just asset management, but is a what we call a podium player, right? And come in with some program to complement it.
Well, we've talked.
I'm sure you guys have thought of that. You've been around
right now, but it's like still. The printer is not. It's an IoT device, different, and it's like it's not a part. It's and the customers. There are tons of customers. We're getting, we're doing well. It's like we want to have more awareness.
right.
So that we can. And we've made it very affordable for them to do it, and the the podium players are so dialed in on like the on their specific focus.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the PC endpoint space is crowded.
Oh,
Server PC endpoint is very crowded.
ferocious.
There are some favorites there that are already there, and that's something that the printer doesn't get the same respect as the PC.
Yeah.
I mean, it does.
No, I get it. Well, this is my point, I guess, about how it's a dinosaur that people still look at and think dinosaur when in fact underneath it's been modernized and it's not a dinosaur, and that's the risk.
You've got a giant hard drive, you've got a web server, an email server, a fax server, an FTP server like Dropbox.
That's so crazy.
Dozens of open ports to communicate with, including remote control. And
these guys just take it out of the box and
it's
set
got
it up.
several USB ports sitting on it, that are protected for data transfer. Man, it's like they're incredible business machines. I mean, they do the manufacturers have done a fantastic job in creating business functionality out of a camera and a sorter. Basically from where we came 40 years ago. So it's like, but at the same time, it's not getting the attention that it should. So,
sure.
But we include, the program management office that we include is management consulting in each service, and it doesn't cost extra. It's helped them design the protocol for them, help them design true up their processes, for like CMDB, things like that, onboarding new devices, their IMAC-D process, for adding new devices and end of life and, things like that are basic blocking and tackling for cyber hygiene, man. Aren't done. So we threw the whole kitchen sink into the solution. So
where do people find you? What's your website? How do they engage with you, learn more?
Great question. So they can go to symphion.com, SYM as in Mary, PHION is in Nancy. They can contact me on LinkedIn. I'm CEO of the company. We can do a 45-minute briefing for a professional. And in that, we can talk about their goals, their objectives, their current situation. We can talk about, we can address different alternatives that they're talking about. Talk about what we do. We give them an approximate price of what it takes for our solution to fix their gap. And keep it fixed. So all that in about 45 minutes. We can give them an assessment, a 10-question assessment that will put them in, where they stand as far as maturity goes. We also we've got 2 new offerings, Grant, that we're previewing in 2 weeks on another podcast. But I'll tell you, we can do a full assessment, which is an electronic assessment of a sampling of their devices to prove the risk that they have if somebody doesn't understand it. And at the same time, interviews about the processes. There's 10 major processes that affect the risk associated with printers. So, and then they got a package to take to go get the budget if they need to have that.
See, I think that's awesome. If I can run a little program, SaaS, do something, right? And a discovery, so to speak, in my own environment.
Yeah.
And then get an assessment kind of without having to go through the talking to the sales guy process, right? Because at the end of the day, that's where I can kind of go, oh, yeah, I've got the risk. And I mean, that makes me more comfortable. I say me as if I'm a customer, right? That's definitely, download this and do your own assessment. I think that's cool. Just find you on LinkedIn, Jim LaRoe, Symphion, Symphion.com.
Yeah, anytime.
This has been awesome. I really, I appreciate your time. Thank you, man.
Yeah, good business.
it is amazing to me how long the tail is, Jim, right? I mean, because we've been doing this a while, but the tail is so long, and we kind of, we're habitual, we humans, and we kind of look at things the same way and don't really realize, God, I got to look at everything differently as it all becomes digitized and interconnected, because protocols are leveling up, things are getting abstracted, it's getting so difficult. And now I can go from, I mean, come on, I can hand off from this to my laptop back to this. So that mesh, right, that hyper connected environment, sometimes things like technology like printers that have been around forever don't get looked at the same way as these hot new cool devices.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad we had a chance to talk and kind of bring it to the surface. So Jim LaRoe, CEO of Symphion, a great episode. And ladies and gentlemen, hey, like it, share it, please. Tell your friends, and we'll look forward to having you back on the next episode of Talking Cloud. Thanks so very much.